introducing stop, you are going to use the chairs that you've got, that you're sitting in currently. If you have a wall near you, or you would like to move to a wall, you can do that as well. So, when we introduce stop, I'm going to talk this through without a dog with me first, and then I'm going to get my dog back out, and I will demonstrate again. So with stop, we are using a barrier to introduce it to start out. We're going to use a barrier to make it really clear to the dog that you can't move forward. Stop means you physically cannot move forward. And so that's why we are using the chairs. When you are at home, you can use a chair, you can use the back of the sofa, you can use the wall. If you have a hallway where, so if we pretend that this pole is a wall, and then my wall continues out this way, and this is my hallway, that's also an option where the barrier is the wall, and then I could continue moving into the hallway. So there's lots of different options for you to use in terms of some kind of object to block your puppy's progress. When you are walking with the dog towards the object, you want the tab of their collar directly behind their head. So the restricted slip collars that the foster puppies have, they've got that extra fabric tab, then that's part of the restricted slip. That should be at the back of their neck, not the front of their neck. And the reason for that is when you are coming to a stop, if the dog tries to continue to move forward and you need to use leash pressure to stop their forward movement, you want that pressure to come directly behind them. If the tab is in the front of their neck, when you go to pull them, it's going to give them a confusing direction of where that force is coming from. So the tab should be directly behind their head. When I approach, I'm going to get my dog out and then I'll just run through it with the dog versus me explaining while also managing the dog. So as I approach, I can do it a couple different ways. I can just approach and approximate, when I get about here, I'm going to say stop, and then I'm going to take 2 more steps, left foot, right foot, before I come to a halt. If you don't really like counting your steps, that's the option that I go with, is that I'm walking and I go stop, and then I come to a stop. If I prefer to count, then what I would do is on my left foot, I'm going to say stop. When I put my left foot down, I take 1 more step with my right, and then I step my feet together. So then that movement is I'm walking, say stop, step, together. I don't like counting like that, so I don't do that. I just guess, okay, I'm about this far away, I need to say stop. Okay, now I've come to a stop. The purpose of doing it this way, where you say stop, and then you take only 1 or 2 more steps, is to give the dog time to come to a stop and not just stopping cold in the middle of your movement, because that's just going to make it harder and more confusing. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to grab my dog, I'm going to show it with him, and then you will do the exercise yourself. Yes. Okay, so I have my dog. I'm going to approach this chair. I'm going to wait for my dog to kind of tune back in with me, because if they're super distracted before I even start moving, that's not really helpful. We're not going to get anywhere productive. So he's checking back in with me. Good boy, yes. We're going to walk, no, over here. Good. We're going to walk together and say, stop. And he came to a stop because he can't physically move forward. There's something in his way. A wall will work best for you if you have a dog that tries to go over or around or under an object. They don't need to come into a sitting position. That's typically what they get taught in the prison programs, is that they stop and then they sit. If the dog comes to a stop but remains standing, that's okay too. So I've got the leash at the back of his head. Heel. Yes. Are you okay? I know it's very hard. So we'll go again. Come on. Stop. Yes, good boy. So when I say stop, and my dog then comes to a stop, I say yes, and then I reward them. Do it one more time. Ready? Let's go. Stop. Yes. So if you noticed, he kind of anticipated it there, and he came to a stop farther back because he's learning that we're going to stop moving when we come to this chair. And that's okay, that's a good thing. That means that they are starting to understand what stop means and what the exercise is that we're doing. Any questions? We will add more layers to this as we go through it. We might do some more of it today. We might add on the next step, or we may not add on the next step until one of the following weeks of class. So you can use the chairs that you've got in front of you. You can also do this with a wall, where you just walk into the wall. If there is something near you that you want to use as a barrier, go for it. If it's something that the dog is going to sniff and be really distracted by when you get up to it, don't use that. That's why walls are usually safe, because most dogs aren't going to be super interested in a wall. I say most because every now and then you do get the dog that wants to lick at the wall. In which case, just take a break, try again later. Okay, so let's break and everybody can practice stop.